Aloha everyone, it's Saturday night on Maui for me. We're going to get it started off with ZIXI. It is my only quote higher quality long position for Tuesday. ZIXI and XENE are the only two long trades that I'm going to take on Tuesday morning. But going over ZIXI first, ZIXI was kind of a long time ago semi-canceling quality back in 2015. It was always a lower price stock, but at one point its EPS and relative strength got above 70, so that's how it initially showed up on my CanSlim scan when I initially got long. Well, the same thing Friday after scanning my stocks, ZIXI shows up on my CanSlim scan. Now it's not anymore, but it still at least has an 80 composite rating, which is overall a green light on the stock, with an 81 relative strength rating, A plus accumulation distribution rating, an A sales profit margin return on equity rating. But it only has a 54 EPS, so that's why it's not the highest quality, but still with the 80 composite overall, kind of CanSlim quality. So we'll kind of get a low quality, low price CanSlim quality name. But ZIXI, not only was it first in the CanSlim quality, then it shows up in my new 52-week high scan on above average volume. Then it shows up in my green BOP for 20 days scan. So it's had green BOP for the past 20 days. And then, of course, it's ultimately confirmed in my price volume BOP scan, which also means it's going to be in my tertiary anything up on above average volume with green BOP scan. So 5 scans total for ZIXI, so it's definitely a new long position. Now, 4 real scans, the tertiary never counts, so that's 4% for each scan. Since it's not a real CanSlim, it's not 5%, and half of 4% is going to be 2% of my account capital. But this market is so strong that my cash account is completely maxed out. I can only put, I'd say, about 0.25% of my account capital in XENE and 0.25% in the add position in ZIXI. Margin account, the buying power continues to increase with the gains I make, so we're to have no problems there. But what a market. I mean, it's pretty incredible. But ZIXI, why I like it so much is, look at this chart. You got pocket pivot point signals at the beginning of January, here at the beginning of February, and here on today's signal date. You had it back in September, October, November. You can see all the green BOP. There is no red BOP in this chart at all coming off the August lows. Excellent price action overall, excellent accumulation, no distribution, and better yet, look at the long-term chart. You can see that this stock has worked off a very long period of basically backing and filling, and with the most recent price action, let's see, get back to there, and there we go. You can see this big, long, drawn-out cup, and this is kind of a handle. You have a base on base pattern here. A breakout to new highs is a pocket pivot point signal, and BOP surging all the way to max green BOP. That's just a beautiful signal. Unfortunately, short term, a little too extended. Don't want to chase it up here. The recent pivot point areas is 501, the high day on the 14th. The 501 high day on the 16th. So I'm going to do a limit order at 502. Now you could also do the recent highs back here that it broke out of, 508, so 509, and heck, if you don't mind chasing, 511. But I'm going 502. First cut loss on the add 488, final cut loss on the add 475. My final cut loss on the original position is 471. So just keep all of that in mind. But ZIXI, I love this pocket pivot point signal. Volume, BOP surge, breakout to new highs. Just wish it wasn't up more than 2%. That way I could just go with the limit order at the high of the day, 515. But here, I got to work it. But nice longer term chart as you see right here, and beautiful up close chart. Then the other long position, this one is more of a momentum swing trade position. More of a momentum RSI swing trade. XENE was interesting to me back here when it was creating the pocket pivot point signals here, but it just wasn't symmetrical enough for me to take. It was just too choppy, just too range bound, and I wasn't interested in it. However, it's consolidated here on quiet volume, started to move back up above the 50-day moving average with many more pocket pivot point signals. The 200-day moving average is still coiling up, and just like ZIXI, a longer term chart, you can see this big long washout period and now sideways consolidation. All this accumulation, all those pocket pivot point signals and all that green BOP makes me think that maybe this next move can be similar to this move here, but on the far right edge. So we shall see. It's a nicer short-term pattern. We don't risk much if we're wrong. First cut loss level 805, and then we can use all the way to 785 as our final cut loss level. But nice pocket pivot point signal right off the 50-day moving average. This one was in both of my BOP scans, my green BOP for 20-day scan and my max green bop for 5-day scan. And then also the volume was slightly above the 50-day moving average, so it showed up on my tertiary scan, and that makes 3 scans, so it's a new long position with those 2 bop scans in the tertiary scan. Like I said, 805, 785 my cut losses. Limit order 830 only, no higher, no less. So I get long at 830, cut my first loss at 805, final loss at 785. But once again, nice long-term chart, but definitely not as nice as ZXY. ZXY is one of the better looking breakout patterns that I've seen in this market. Now, if this is anything like 2003, what you would see is this move from October to December, that would have max green bop. This consolidation would have max green bop, and then you would get today's breakout. So not quite a 2003 like setup, but it's one of the better ones in a long time. I mean, this is a very long-term base pattern breakout, and it's also a nice short-term base on base pattern breakout. So a few things going for it. Now, I also want to show you that I also flagged and passed on ACIA. The reason for that is because you can still see it's extended from the 20 and 10-day moving average. GDXS was almost a long position, but that bop surge is just not strong enough to add as a hedge here, but I did like the move off the lows. And then ATKR, this was another stock that was in a ton of scans, but with that kind of volume surge compared to all the recent volume, I would have expected BOP to race to near max green. And I know that it was dealing with a secondary offering and the secondary went well, but still I would have liked to have seen it close higher than where it opened, and it did not. So no BOP surge up there, no higher close than open. That's why it's not. So just ZXY, 2% of my account capital, and XENE, 0.25% of my account capital. All right, have a great rest of your long weekend. This market looks extremely hot. I barely have any sell signals. I had a 50% sell signal in NORW and then a full sell signal in SOXS. And so that means to me, half was knocked out. I was knocked out of half on Friday. My final half is that low right there, so if it trades at 844, I will be all out of SOXS. This is a very strong tape. We're still overbought. That's why I added UVXY and VIIX on Thursday, and notice that those VIX trades were also higher on Friday. Might be indicating that this market is way too long in the tooth. Look at it break out above that upper trend line. I mean, that's a very extended market. Look at where the 200-day moving average is. It's pretty ridiculous. All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.